Are you listening? Damn.
Welcome to another edition of the AFC North Talk. Here with the guys. Yes, Tony is not here. Tony sent his video. He'll be fine. You know, we can do this between the three of us. I know you guys always, get scared when one of us, one of your representative of the AFC North not here, but he sent everything. Everything will be okay.
Najee Harris, number 4. Who's going to argue?
Yeah. Oh, like always, super chats are available. It's a way to interact directly with us. If you have any questions, any comments, super chat that also help us a lot. Also, for the people that are watching the replay, super thanks are available. We'll try to always answer those on the replay. Guys, how you guys doing?
Pretty good, bro. How you doing?
On a lovely Friday here in the UK, it's a holiday because it's the Queen's 70th year of her ruling. This lady's been there for a minute. Okay, we're gonna start always with our guy here, Tony, and then we'll bounce after that with the rest of us. Before that, we have one super chat here, real quick from Joshua. Says, I hope y'all take into consideration the Bengals' new O-line and Lyle Collins.
This ain't running game. This is running backs.
Yes, Joshua. It is what Q said is correct, and that's how everything will be reflected.
I know they ain't Bengal fans about to be mad if they don't get number 1. I know y'all ain't doing that today.
O-line will get a separate show, right?
They ain't number 1 in that.
And in that portion, we're gonna take consideration all your new O-line additions, Lyle Collins and the others. Okay, but let's go here with my guy Tony and let's see what Tony says.
All right, unfortunately, not going to make it to tonight's show. Got a late night at work coming up, so I apologize for that last minute thing. But that doesn't mean you're not going to get my running back rankings. I am going to give you my running back rankings. Now, I know a lot of you were expecting me to be kind of the catalyst for tonight's debates when it comes to the running back rooms. Because, of course, Najee Harris did not have a bad rookie season, and I was, Tony's going to rank him really high. I'm not. Let's start right here with number 4. I'm going to put the Steelers at number 4. It's not a slight on Najee whatsoever. I thought Najee was very good last year. Obviously, played behind a really bad offensive line, one of the worst run-blocking offensive lines in the league, and yet was still able to put up what I would consider decent numbers. Look, the 1,200 yards he put up is not something I'm going to point to and say, look, you're over 1,200 yards. I mean, sure, he had the second most carries in the league, but he had 1,200 yards. 3.9 yards per carry is certainly nothing to write home about. I think you look under the hood a little bit behind the line that he was playing. The stat that I'm always going to point to with Najee is the yards before contact, the yards after contact. Right? If you imagine, if we simplify this down, obviously there's more nuanced takes on this, but I don't have a lot of time. Yards before contact, yards your offensive line creates for you. Yards after contact are yards you create for yourself. Najee Harris had one of the lowest numbers in the league in yards before contact, 1.7 yards before contact, and yet had a yards after contact of 2.2, giving him actually not only the third lowest number in yards before contact, but the highest number, tied for the highest number in the league when it comes to the difference between your yards before and yards after contact. So he was making actually more yards for himself, and that kind of spread there was as big of anyone in the league. And I think it shows, Najee Harris, his ability to create yards for himself, something that I talked about when he came out of Bama a year ago. It's going to be very important behind, when playing behind such a bad offensive line early on in his career. You hope that the offensive line can get better. And I do think that Najee Harris, it could be in for a more quote-unquote breakout style year, even though he did have 1,200 yards. I think he could be far more efficient this year if the offensive line can improve a little bit. The problem I have here, and the reason why I'm putting the Steelers number 4, is it's a fundamental disagreement between me, Mike Tomlin, Kevin Colbert, and new GM Omar Khan, in how they put together this room. Because I'm not ranking players here. I'm not ranking the top guy in the room. I'm ranking the room. And the room in Pittsburgh is actually not that good. Because while Najee Harris is a fantastic back, and I like Najee Harris a lot, Benny Snell and Anthony McFarland, what are we doing? What are we doing in Pittsburgh? You look back at the Le'Veon Bell era and how often he was hurt throughout his career. And the Steelers knew this. Look, who did they put behind Le'Veon Bell? They put LeGarrette Blount in his second year. And then they went out and got D'Angelo Williams for a couple of seasons. Mike Tomlin, Kevin Colbert, Omar Khan. Where is our LeGarrette Blount? Where is our D'Angelo Williams? Because I'm sorry, Benny Snell's not that guy. And by the way, they know Benny Snell's not that guy. He was nearly cut a year ago after training camp. Only made the team because he was so good as a special team. Remember, they brought in Kalen Ballage last year. Really should have taken his spot. Did take his spot as a backup running back, but Benny Snell was too good as a special teamer to cut. And then you got Anthony McFarland behind him, who I know Steelers fans write me all the time and say, Tony, you want to rate Anthony McFarland? Yeah, I do. Year 3, he's got 33 carries. Give me a break. He had 1 yard per carry a year ago. I mean, give me a break. No way. What he showed in his rookie year as far as vision and the lack thereof, I mean, the Steelers don't have a backup right now. If Najee Harris gets hurt, the Steelers don't just have the worst running back room in the AFC North. They have the worst running back room in the league. Okay? So, I mean, every Steelers fan needs to go to bed at night praying that Najee Harris doesn't get hurt. Because this is going to be a disaster season if he does. What they have behind Najee Harris is a travesty. And it's something that I'm sure Mike Tomlin and Omar Khan are talking about right now and potentially going to address before free agency. But we're doing these rankings here in June. And in June, the Steelers have the 4th best room in the division.
Okay. So let's go now with Ace. What do you think? Tony ranks the Steelers 4th. Who do you have at number 4?
Yeah, I think if you're looking at the room, which you guys are, I think that the Steelers would be, if you're looking collectively, they would be the last place team, right? For me, I tend to think a little different. Like if Barry Sanders is in one room and I have some average or above average running backs in another one, I'm still going with the Barry Sanders room. For me, what Najee Harris did last year, especially after looking up these stats for what he did in that situation, I cannot put the Steelers 4th because I feel like Najee Harris is going to be in for an even bigger year this season because they have improved that offensive line. They're going over to the zone scheme, which I think is going to bode well for him as well. And he's got a rookie quarterback, which means that I feel like they are going to depend on him a lot. He did those numbers in the offense that passes the ball 60+% of the time. I think that they will run more with Kenny Pickett next year. So I was thinking about putting the Steelers here, but I did not. Now, when we look at the Ravens, if I'm including Lamar Jackson and we're talking about the run game, they're probably the number 1 team in this division, right? But just like last year, the one thing that I said is Lamar contributes a ton to that run game. One of the things that I found, because I had to go back and look at JK in respect to what they did in 2020, the one thing that I found that was interesting is when you look at red zone carries, right, and you look at the percentages there, when you look at Joe Mixon, 77%, when you look at Nick Chubb, 72%, when you look at Najee Harris, 71%, J.K. Dobbins had 28%, Gus Edwards had 27%, Lamar has 25% because he's a factor in the run game. Now, when you look at the rushing attempt percentage and you're looking at it on a weekly basis, the average for Lamar Jackson was 30% in 2020, 35% in 2021. So he's going to take away from, or I'm not going to say he's going to take away, but he adds a completely different dimension to that run game. If you take Lamar Jackson away, they still have 3 good running backs. Because I'm a fan of Mike Davis. I like what Mike Davis did with Carolina. I thought that he was going to ascend even more in Atlanta, but apparently Cordero Patterson decided to just go crazy that year. But for me, it's going to be the Baltimore Ravens. And the reason why is we have 2 running backs in that room that I cannot definitively say are top 10 running backs. I think together their production, sure. But I feel like definitively, if you were to look at that room and say, is J.K. Dobbins top 10? I don't think that you could say that. I don't think you could say that about Gus Edwards either. Mike Davis, I'm not sure what we're getting from him. According to PFF, he had a down year last year. I don't think that that's going to continue, especially in that scheme. The Ravens are going to finish as a top run team for sure. That's what their scheme is. They run the ball at a way higher percentage than anyone in the division, even over the Browns. They're at what it looks like 55%. 55%. So they're going to get run. They're going to get rushing yards. They're going to get that. But if we're talking about running backs, I have to go with the Ravens here at 4th.
Okay, cute.
This is an interesting conversation because you have to factor injuries into this, right? But there are some things that could, I mean, like anybody, but I think, in my opinion, Cleveland could be ranked 4 here. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. Pittsburgh has a strong case just because they got nothing behind Najee Harris. And Najee was good last year, but he wasn't amazing last year. Like it was a pretty solid rookie year. I mean, like 1,200 yards, 7 touchdowns. Like I don't want to make that seem like it's not work, but he also had like 3.91 yards per carry, which is not great. You usually want to be above that 4.5 mark. Then you look at what Gus was doing before he got hurt, right? Gus was putting in some work, 700 yards, about 6 touchdowns. What was that? I think he was at 5 yards per carry. J.K. was putting in even more work, 800 yards, 9 touchdowns, 6.7. And then you look at the Bengals, and Joe Mixon had a solid year there. If you look at yards per carry, it was still worse than Najee's because Najee, I think he had 12. Well, they had about the same amount of rushing yards, but Najee, I think he edged him out barely on yards per carry. And I think they're very similar rooms here. So I came into this thinking maybe it goes between, well, Najee was at 3.91. Joe Mixon was at 4.1. Yeah, 4.1. So since those are very similar rooms where I'm like, they got a top guy, but they don't really got much else behind it that I trust or that has been out there. I mean, Chris Evans is all right. He's better than Anthony McFarland. So that's why I'm going to put Pittsburgh here at 4. And I worry about the load that they had Najee carried there. I mean, those running backs coming out of Alabama, notorious for coming out with a lot of tread on those tires, right? Because they were used. And Najee especially had a lot of tread on his tires coming out because he was used heavily once Derrick Henry had left Alabama because guys like Bo Scarborough did not pan out in the way that they thought they would. So Najee was really used Alabama. Not Najee. It was not Derrick Henry. I'm talking about Josh Jackson or something like that. But Najee, I feel like there's a lot of tread there. He's clearly not injured, but I would put him at 4 just because same thing Tony said, not a lot behind him.
Yeah, I will say this. Last week, for example, I remember I was ranking the quarterbacks, saying like, for quarterbacks, even though we're talking about rooms, your main guy, unless he's injured, we're nobody.
Well, that's not the same case for running backs, too.
Yeah, but that was gonna be my point. So in here, I do incorporate a room basically for the rest of the positions, right? And for me, the 4th was the easiest one to rank. Well, no, first was the easiest, and then the 4th. It has to be the Steelers for me. Najee Harris, I thought had a good year. Going back to what Q said, also the running backs from Bama, they not only have a lot of mileage. Some of them they go through peaks and valleys, right? I'm blanking the guy from the Raiders. Josh. It's not Josh.
Josh Jacobs.
Josh Jacobs, yes. Josh Jacobs, if you see him, Josh Jacobs is a good running back, and he will have games you're like, damn, that dude looks great. And then he will have another against like, what happened with this dude? I thought he was that, I thought he was like top 5 running back. And with Najee, yeah, I get it. The O-line wasn't great. And that is a big factor. And what Tony said is also true. After contact, the guy has a good yards after contact. So I think he could be better this year. He bulked up. I think I saw somewhere that he's about 250 now. So he definitely is bulking up. I don't know if he's just expecting to be more of a power runner than more of a shiftiness guy. But After that, I mean, Snell from Kentucky, I thought he was going to be better than what he is. I know in Baltimore, people talk about McFarland because he was a Maryland guy, but neither of those two guys, and then what Tony said is correct. If Najee gets hurt, and all running backs tend to get nicked, right? Because it's just the nature of that position. What are you going to do after that? They had nothing. Literally nothing. So for me, again, after first, I thought fourth. And when you have a guy, to Ace's point, Barry Sanders, I get it. If you have a top three running back, and then the other room between both of them, you're gonna say, they're like 15th. I get that, right? You get skew for one because that one is so much better than the sum of the other. I don't think Najee is yet that like a Nick Chubb or one of the or Mixon that is skewing this table so much between the sum of the others that I have to put him above with the room. For that reason, I had the Steelers fourth. Not that I don't like Najee. I think if we were rank running backs, then we'll rank Najee in the top four. But since we're ranking rooms, then it makes it to a different dynamic. That being said, I have a super chat and then I'm gonna throw it to Q. Hawk says, "Well, a running back has thrown a touchdown in a Super Bowl. Bengals number one spot. Y'all can fight for second and third. Browns and Ravens. By the way, there's also a poll right now in the live chat that you can vote who is your top running group. Okay, Q. Let's pay some bills, man.
All right, man. So y'all know we represent Manscaped. We down with the Manscaped. And speaking of men, it's Father's Day coming up, man. Oh, wait, what's that? In about 17 days? Ace, you the father here. I'm not nobody's father.
So is Sonny. Sonny's a father as well.
Oh, yeah, y'all both fathers. Everybody, well, no, Tony's not a father, I don't think. All right, so gentlemen, I just want to let y'all know Father's Day is just around the corner, and all friends at Manscaped are here to ensure that all father figures out there are looking like daddy material this June. Manscaped's Performance Package 4.0, which includes that signature lawnmower 4.0. They keep upping the ante on these lawnmowers, and it's just gonna get smoother and smoother. Your ball's gonna be smoother than jazz this summer if you mess with Manscaped. It's the perfect bundle to tackle any old man hair from head to toe. Right here, no dad jokes. Treat him and yourself and join the 4 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer with the code AFC North Talk at manscaped.com. Again, it's AFC North Talk at manscaped.com. Hold on, wait, you want to know it again? I got you. AFC North Talk at Manscaped. Again, trust me, your dad bod is going to thank you. Get 20% off plus free shipping when you use the code. Say it with me, chat. Come on. AFC North Talk at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at AFC North Talk when you use the code at checkout. AFC North Talk at manscaped.com. Sonny, let them know. Does that work overseas?
It does.
It's international. It is international because Sonny is an international player out here. So whatever time zone you're in, it's not a time zone that's too late to make sure your balls are smooth this summer. And hurry up, man. Manscaped, they sell these things fast. So use the code AFC North Talk at manscaped.com and shake what your mama gave you. Well, what your daddy gave you. I mean, your mama had a part in that, but just shake whatever it is that you feel like shaking. Just make sure ain't no hair down there. You know what I mean? It's for everybody. So, shout out to that. Shout out to Manscaped.
So also in the description below, make sure you hit that like. Also subscribe if you haven't subscribed. What are you doing? Subscribe to the channel. Hit that like. Hit that bell. Right? So because we switch, especially in the off season, we switch our streaming schedules. In the regular season, we do twice a show. So if you're new here or doing the regular season, we do 2 shows. So, but still, subscribe, hit that bell. That way you don't have to worry. Did they change your Monday, Wednesday? Nope. Oh, look at that. You get the notification. And again, like, subscribe, and share our content. Okay, let's go back with Tony here to see who he has at number 3.
Number 3, Baltimore Ravens. I'll go quick here. This is not damning on the talent level. I think J.K. Dobbins can be a great back, especially if he comes back healthy 100%. Look, the big plays that he had as a rookie, that's something the Ravens so desperately could have used a year ago. And if he can bring that back to this offense, there's no doubt in my mind this Ravens team will, once again be the best team, second best rushing team in the league. But I'm not rating your rushing offense. I'm rating your running room. And right now you got 2 players both coming back from ACL. I'm going to hedge on that. It's devastating season-long injuries to their knee of a running back. Look, if I get called stupid at the end of the year because I hedged on 2 runners with ACL tears and they ended up both being fine, okay, I don't care. That's fine. I'm going to hedge on ACL tears to running backs. That's why I put the Ravens number 3. Number 2.
Okay, so Tony went with a quick one there. Ravens at 3. Ace, who do you have at 3?
This one was the toughest one for me. I almost actually put the Bengals here. And like I said, on the surface, it seems like Najee Harris was just a product of, being in the backfield by himself. But when you peel back the layers, this guy had a run blocking or offensive line in front of him that was not good. They literally were not good. They were the worst, not only in the AFC North, one of the worst in the entire league. I believe they were ranked 30th in run block win rate. Another thing about Najee Harris, too, is the receptions. We talk about the running, but let's talk about what he did in the passing game last year. That was not normal. For him to have nearly 500 yards receiving as well as that 1,200 on the ground was extremely impressive. And then the predicament that he was in, especially playing in a passing offense that only runs the ball 36% of the time. All that made me think that he could have lapsed Mixon. When you look at the overall stats, Mixon also had 1,200 yards, also had some receiving yards as well. But technically speaking, Najee Harris eclipsed that, right? And so for me, I really thought about putting Najee Harris here because I honestly, there was a tweet going around and someone ranked Najee Harris as number 1. And initially I was like, this is crazy. Why would somebody think that? This makes no sense. But when you look at what they're doing in Pittsburgh and what he did his first year, despite the circumstances around him, which I understand as a Bengals fan, as a Joe Mixon fan, seeing Joe Mixon do things with a bad line, I just think that the arrow is pointing up. But when we get to the Benny Snell thing, which I think Benny Snell is capable, I don't think he's completely trash. I went back and looked at the games that he started. Anthony McFarland, I can't speak for at all. But I just tend to think that Najee Harris, after looking at these numbers, this dude could end up being the number 1 back in the North. Like, I fully believe that. I really almost put the Bengals here. But because of Chris Evans, I'm going to put the Steelers here at number 3. But it would not surprise me if Najee Harris ends up being potentially the number 1 back in the North. I think he is ascending. I think that the fact that they ended up fixing that offensive line, doing some things there, the rookie quarterback, him getting the ball more. I mean, if he put up those numbers with those circumstances, if that line is in the top half, like the Ravens and the Bengals and the other teams in this division are, I think that he's in for a bigger year. I really do see that happening.
Okay, cute.
Yeah, the Bengals are here at 3. Similar situation to Pittsburgh, where not a great run blocking offensive line. Well, it was a decent run blocking offensive line actually last year, more than people gave it credit for. But with Joe, the numbers were there cumulatively. And I think in certain games he was very, very effective. I think he kind of underutilized at some points. But the averages just didn't hold up as well as some of the other running backs that we're going to talk about going forward here. And then when you look at what's behind him, I like Chris Evans. I like Samaje Perine, but I don't like them more than I like some of the other guys that we're going to talk about as well. Again, it's really not a slight. They have a good enough running back situation. It's not like Joe Mixon is chopped liver by any means. I mean, we're talking about Najee Harris being 4 in these rankings for a lot of, running back room that has Najee Harris when he was pretty good his rookie year. Being number 4, it just tells you how deep the running back conversation is. And again, I think fans have to realize this division is deep. Like, all the Vegas odds are 7.5 for Pittsburgh. So the only team that's going to be under 500 is Pittsburgh at 8. at 7 games for Pittsburgh. This is not going to be a weak division by any means. So, being in the bottom half of the conversation, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. I just think I think there's a lot more potential with the other 2 teams here in the ranking. So I put the Bengals here at 3.
Okay. Wow, for me, 2 and 3 was super hard. 2 and 3, I went back and forth, and going back to something that A said, it was more the Bengals had Joe Mixon, and I actually like Chris Evans, but I think the Bengals don't like Chris Evans as much they like P. Ryan. I mean, I'm not talking about you fans. I'm talking about coaching staff. Because I feel like every time I see Evans, he makes way more plays than P. Ryan. But in the scheme of playing, if Mixon's not there, their de facto second, or I guess starting running back is Samaje, right? So even though I like Chris Evans, I had to take him down a notch because I know he ain't gonna be playing as much as P. Ryan, right? And again, I went back and forth, and I'm ranking here the Ravens third, and the reason why is similar to what Tony said. Is they're both of the top horses here are coming from injuries. If fully healthy, I would be putting the Ravens too. But I always like in this year, I'm trying to work myself to rank the guys a little bit different because I'm taking into the rookies consideration and blah blah blah. And also injuries, even though I usually take them down a notch, I'm trying to be fair and say, okay, based on them coming healthy. But again, both of my main guys are coming on injury. So it's kind of, if it was one of them, I even might lean into putting the number 2. But look, I like a lot of this Ravens running game. Not only the running game, because obviously the running game brings Lamar, but just the 2 guys. And in a normal world, if one of them goes down, you have the confidence that the other guy can step up and be that guy and push the ball forward. And these guys are between 5 point something yards a clip every time they carry. Either one, right? And behind them, now they brought Mike Davis. And behind them, they drafted a guy on Beatty that I like a lot as a more of receiving type of running back. I don't think he necessarily is going to be a factor this year, but for the future to come, I think he could be a factor in that. So the Ravens, I think, have not the deepest depth because there's a team that has a better depth if their number 1 guy goes down. But they're definitely situated better than the other 2 teams. Joe Mixon, I think it was in one of the All-Pro votes, got a notch as an All-Team Pro running back. And Mixon had a good year. He had a good year. And like I said, it was hard. I actually debated this. I look at the numbers. And for me, it was more the Ravens running back. Both are coming from harsh injuries. Yeah, not injuries that they cannot recover. But some players take a minute recovering from those injuries, right? And that's why, and it pains me to say it, but I had to rank them here third. Okay. So far, by the way, if we go to y'all votes, we have over 230 votes. We have the Browns first, Bengals second by an inch, 16%, 14% Ravens, 5% Steelers. By the way, the Browns are 65%. Okay, number 2, Ace. Who do you have at number 2?
Number 2, I went with the Bengals here. And the primary reason was a number of things. Joe Mixon obviously had a bounce back year last season in 16 games, ran for 1,200 yards. Was the number 1 efficiency running back according to Next Gen Stats for the entire AFC last year. You got Chris Evans, which I will say, Sonny, I think that they're going to use Chris Evans more this season. I do agree with you. They didn't use him as much as they should have last year. It was frustrating for a lot of Bengals fans. And Chris Evans, honestly, I kind of have a little bit of a bias here because I'm a huge Reggie Bush fan. That is what Chris Evans' game is. He's a running back that can line up at slot receiver, that can run routes like that. He literally can do all of that. When you talk about the quick juke ability and things like that, I think if the Bengals find a role for him because they have the Migos and all of these weapons. He's a guy that's going to fly under the radar. Samaje Perine, I kind of have a love-hate relationship with. I do think he is somewhat underrated. When Joe Mixon was down, I believe in 2020, he had a couple of 100-yard games. I'm not expecting that to be his average or anything, but he's solid. But he's frustrating because he gets more snaps than Chris Evans in the offense. I think next year we'll see them start to go to Chris Evans more over Samaje Perine. Joe Mixon, I feel like one of the negatives that you can say about him is the pass blocking. He's really struggled in that area for most of the time. That's one of the reasons that Gio used to come on the field, and sometimes they would take him off of third down. But here's the other thing. The biggest reason that I feel like Joe Mixon is still going to ascend, other than him only being 26 years old, the Bengals went out and they got offensive linemen. Now, a lot of people talked about that's going to help Joe Burrow. It's going to help Joe Burrow. But as Bengals fans know that that's going to also help Joe Mixon, especially when you have a guy like La'el Collins with an 89.7 elite run blocking grade. Like, we're going from Bobby Hart to La'el Collins. And then you also have Karras, you also have Kappa, who are also good and above average in the run blocking game. So he's going to have that. Another thing that I told people last year, one of the reasons why Joe Mixon was going to have a good year again, is because Frank Pollock is now back on the coaching staff. Frank Pollock, for those who don't know, he's an offensive line coach, but he's also the run game coordinator. He was also the guy that was responsible for Joe Mixon having the AFC leading year. I believe that was 2018, where he led the AFC in rushing. I don't think that we've seen the best out of Joe Mixon, and I'm excited to see what he brings, but I'm also excited to see what we see from Chris Evans as well. And that was kind of the deciding factor for me. I like what Pittsburgh did with their offensive line, but they didn't sign a La'el Collins. They didn't make those kind of signings, I think, to the offensive line. No disrespect to James Daniels and Mason Cole and those guys over there. I think that those are solid players. But when you're bringing in a guy like La'el Collins that completely changes the run game for them, I think that Joe Mixon is going to be in for another big year. And I think Chris Evans could be in for a solid year as well.
Okay. I actually jumped Tony, but Q, do you want to go next, or you want me to put Tony?
Well, for number one?
No, for number two.
Number two? You can put Tony on for number two. We stick with the rotation.
Yes, that was my bad here. I jumped in.
Cincinnati Bengals. I like the entire room here. Obviously, Mixon is the bell cow there. He is a great back. But I like Perine and what he can do, not only as a spell back, but also out of the backfield as a receiver. We saw him make some big plays a year ago. And then, of course, my love for Chris Evans knows no bounds. I loved him all the way back at Michigan. I thought he was a sleeper in last year's draft. The Bengals ended up getting him. And I think he's a perfect complement to Joe Burrow and the type of quarterback that Joe Burrow is, right? You think about Tom Brady and what he was able to do with a Deion Lewis, a James White. Boy, I think Chris Evans could be that kind of player for Joe Burrow in those passing situations. So look for that. Number one.
Okay. Yeah, there you go. He goes for the Bengals. Q.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Ravens here. I surprised myself. I didn't think I would go this way when I started this process, but I ended up leaning towards this way because, one, I do think the Ravens are probably going to end up being top 5 in rushing yards. Now, a lot of that's going to have Lamar Jackson's stamp on it. He's been the leading rusher for this team for the last couple of years, if I'm not wrong. I know he was the leading rusher in 2019 and in 2020, right? I don't know if he was this year. But
I'm sure he was this year because this year,
because there was no main running back, right?
Yeah.
So, Lamar kind of factors into it, but can't really because of the way we're doing this. But that the Ravens are probably going to be a top 5 rushing team. And then when you look at the career numbers, I'm not even saying just the 2020 numbers of Gus Edwards, but the career numbers are very impressive for him, right? Yep. 700 yards each year of his career on pretty limited carries, right? We're talking about 130, 133, 140 over a full season. He had one start in 2019, still put up 700 yards, 2 touchdowns. And that's pretty impressive. When he got some starts in 2020, 723 on a 5.25 yard per carry average here. So he's at 5.2 yards per carry pretty consistently throughout his career. 700 yards. That's work, especially because he's anticipated to be a backup running back here to J.K. Dobbins. J.K. Dobbins in his 1 year play where he really, he was in 15 games, but correct me if I'm wrong in that season. There's 4 games where he just got a DNP or something like that. He didn't play that much. He didn't start to get carries till the second quarter of the season. And then he had 134 attempts for 805 yards, 9 touchdowns. That's 6.7 per. That's pretty good numbers. Now, there is the question mark of whether they can come back from injury. Since they're ACL injuries, I mean, yeah, we are concerned about ACL injuries, but like not to the point where we don't think guys can recover and play next year because of it. I mean, this is already the case. Well, I think we made this mistake when we ranked Joe Burrow 4th because he was coming off of an ACL injury. That ended up being very, very dumb because the history of ACL injuries has been people just been able to come back from them relatively fine. So you have these two guys coming back who were pretty damn good. I mean, 6.7 on 134 attempts is pretty good in my book on 805 yards, 9 touchdowns. I think the Baltimore Ravens probably going to be another top 5 team. They probably outrush in pure rushing yards, the number 1 team, because they do run so much from the quarterback position. I don't know if they're going to – I would hope the goal is that their leading rusher is not their quarterback anymore, right? Like that's probably the goal for them. I think they're going to go back to this ground game, really commit to it. From a run blocking perspective, that offensive line isn't as bad as it is at pass blocking, so they'll just kind of lean into that. And I think the Baltimore Ravens, we have another year of really strong running the football for them. And they weren't terrible last year, despite them having
Top 3.
Yeah, despite them having like what Devontae Foreman was out there running the ball at one point. Well, not Devontae Foreman, Devontae Freeman from Atlanta.
Yeah.
No, you know what I mean? Like they had ghosts of the past out here running well. In
that
Baltimore.
system, man, that system runs like a well-oiled machine for sure.
So they will definitely still be in that conversation as one of the best running teams in football. I don't know. I feel weird about not adding Lamar into this conversation because he's been the leading rusher, right? Like by far the leading rusher for Baltimore. So when you look at them Gus Edwards numbers, like some of those were when he was a 3rd string running back. Like that's work. In my opinion.
Not only that, cute. Also, let me put perspective also into the Edwards. He was carrying about 4 yards per carry, maybe almost 5. When this is pre-Lamar, when he was in the rookie year, when Joe Flacco was still the quarterback, right? We had Mark Ingram being the main running back, and he was still carrying the rock around 4.5 yards per carry. And then when Lamar got there, he was the second back when Ingram was there. And then J.K., to Q's point, he was the 3rd running back when he started in that 2019 year. Yeah. And then as Mark Ingram faded, J.K. became the main guy, and Gus basically always stayed as the number 2 guy. Go ahead.
And I guess my biggest point here for the Ravens and why they rank there, if they go back to anywhere close to 2020 form, when your 3rd leading rusher has 700 yards on 5.2 yards per carry, which is better than most of all the other running backs we have talked about so far in this conversation, you're going to be in the top half of the running back room conversation. Like that just is flat blank, period. We can look at this and be disingenuous and say, oh, it's really only the running backs. But come on, man. Like we know Lamar going to be in the top. He's going to be the top 2, one of the top 2 rushers, if not the top rusher in that conversation. So when you look at that 3-headed monster, I mean, it's almost arguable that you could put him over Cleveland when you look at him that way. But the only reason they're not really in that conversation right now is because those guys are coming back from an ACL injury, because if they would have performed like the dudes they had in rotation last year, we might be having that conversation. So
but that kind of, I think, goes to the point, right? Like it's the system in Baltimore that makes them successful, not necessarily, in my opinion, the personnel. Because we just talked about how they didn't have good running backs last year, still finished top 3 in the NFL in rushing. They were number 1 a year before. So to me, like, is it that it's Gus Edwards or is it the system? Is it Greg Roman's system? Is it the Lamar Jackson factor that you have?
Both, right?
Here's the question I will ask.
It could be both.
Ace, because you can make that argument, and there is points to that. I would argue how relevant that actually is in this conversation, just because, does the scheme help them? Of course, but the scheme helps all kind of players play better than what they actually are. You know, there's no neutral scheme that you have to play in the NFL in order to be successful. So if the scheme does elevate them, then the scheme is part of the running back room, right? You know what I mean? Like the Bengals could technically run the same scheme that the Ravens have, but that doesn't change what they have there. Like the performance in the room is the performance in the room, and that's all we have to evaluate off of. I can't really evaluate this based off of a hypothetical, which is, oh, well, the scheme helps them. So
No,
hypothetically,
I'm
how would
just
that like how
saying
would the
based
scheme
off of the
change
numbers
things?
that we have, it
Yeah.
hasn't been much of a drop off for them from year to year. Now, if I
Yeah,
could
that's what I'm
say
saying. Like
hypothetically,
we can make the argument there, but
right?
also if that scheme is going to make them even better than the third best rushing team in football, then that ultimately the scheme is in the running back room too. So you have to evaluate it with that too.
Mhm.
You know, I can't say, oh, I'm gonna put another team that might be 15 for 10th in rushing over Baltimore, in my opinion, just because I think the scheme helps them out. When if they're putting up that production, they're that. You know, as the running back room. I mean, we can make the argument in the micro for every team here, right? We could say the Bengals wide receivers aren't good because Joe Burrow is such a good quarterback, and that helps them be better as wide receivers. Even though we know that that's really not the case, you can make an argument like that. So I just find those arguments hard to base things off of for me. And that's why I went ahead and put the Ravens here at 2. Again, there's really no slight wherever you're ranked on this list.
Facts.
Because every team in this division has somebody who can hurt you on the ground. So it ain't like anybody hurting, right?
This is where we run the football at, is the AFC North.
And to Ace's point, the one thing you can also see, and I guess to both points, is that the running game did not take a big hit, I guess, because they still rank on top of the league. But we're talking about, if you think about Devontae Freeman and Latavius Murray, right? As Q said, ghosts of the past. They did 4-point-something yards per clip versus J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards were in the 5 and 6 yards per clip, right? So obviously they were better than the other two guys. That the running game was still good. Yes, as a Ravens fan, it didn't feel like it. I will tell you that. As I'm watching the games, you were like, "Damn, we can't run the ball. We can't."
And then those were some games without Lamar. You had the backup in there. He was still doing this thing as well with Huntley.
Oh yeah, because Huntley has a similar style as Lamar. He is fast or just dynamic, but he has a similar
It's like
style.
when,
We know he got a similar
not to
style
be
to
cliche,
Lamar.
but it's like when people said that
we seen him out there
Tom Brady was a
catfishing.
system quarterback.
Yeah, Q
because of the
would
Patriots.
tell you. Q would tell you that Huntley has up to the
All I know is I remember what Tyler Huntley face mask and jersey and his accessories used to look like before he played for the Baltimore Ravens, and I know what they look like now. They the same as Lamar's. I don't know how that happened. I'm just saying that man might be catfishing out there in the Baltimore area.
Oh man. For me, number 2, it is the Bengals. And like I said, for me, 3 and 2 was very hard. There were, because I think overall the Ravens have a better group, but the Bengals had the better guy. And I think if the Ravens guys weren't coming up injuries, and they would have put the performance maybe a little bit better as J.K. Dobbins was coming into his second year, I might have given them the notch. But as at this point, I mean, Mixon is an incredible running back. He's been consistent throughout his career as a good running back, right? But bad O-lines, we talk about the Bengals O-line at nauseous in this podcast for years. And dude has still been good. Still, I mean, I've been a Mixon fan. So, and like I said, last year he got it was one of the groups that gives an All-Pro selection. He got a first team All-Pro. Joe Mixon did, and I think he deserved it, right? This is and not because the Bengals necessarily went to the Super Bowl. He deserved it. He was a great player last year. And like I said, I agree here with Ace. I think the weakness was with Mixon, and I was a big Gio Bernard fan. I was happy that Gio Bernard left the Bengals because he will kill me. Then he will stay there in the block, and then when you think he was there to block, he will leak out, and then he will cash it in the flat, and then boom, first down, right? So I was happy with Bernard. Wasn't part of this room, but Mixon. Like the guy said here, like if we'll be ranking like individuals, Mixon's probably what, second in like running back in
It
my
depends.
opinion.
I don't know. Browns fans are saying Kareem Hunt is better.
But Kareem Hunt is a beast too. But Kareem Hunt might be third, right?
Yeah,
I don't know, or fourth.
or
But
fourth.
but
Yeah,
yeah, but you have Mixon there consistently. We're talking about the AFC North, right? And we'll see now J.K. Dobbins in year 3, essentially his year 2. We'll be
I'm ready to see JK. Like people are probably going to comment and say that I'm just hating or whatever, but I am excited to see what JK can do as the guy. Because like his rookie year, he didn't really get it right because you had Mark Ingram at the beginning. So
The
now we're going to
ghost
get to
of
see
Mark
him.
Ingram. That
See
was
him do
that
his
year
thing.
in 2020 was the ghost of
yeah,
Mark
he was
Ingram.
not great. He got benched.
And I'm not gonna lie, like the Mike Davis pickup, I really like a lot for you guys because I hate it and I like it because I hope it doesn't take away from JK, but I think Mike Davis is gonna bring something else to that locker room. And if you're a fantasy football player, you know damn well who Mike Davis is.
Yeah, I think Mike Davis was signed as an insurance policy to see, depending how the guys, maybe to ease their carriers at the beginning of the year.
And
Uh,
Justice Hill, Dax Hill's brother. Justice Hill,
yeah,
can't forget him. You don't
Justice
seem
Hill.
excited about it.
No, I'm not. I'm not big on Justice Hill is a good special teamer.
Gotcha.
That's where he excels. But overall, I think Bengals have a great guy in Mixon, and like I said earlier, they should have been using more Chris Evans. Chris Evans is way more dynamic than the P Ryan. I don't know if it is the P Ryan is better in the pass blocking because
They claim he is. PFF doesn't believe that at all, but
yeah,
apparently the Bengals think that he's a better pass blocker. But yeah, that grade is not good for pass
Evans
blocking.
is definitely better in the catching in the receiving game, more dynamic in
I
my
thought it
opinion.
would be that Evans was bad, but I mean the sample size is super small, but he's
That's
got
it.
like an 80 plus pass blocking grade, but it's a small sample size.
It is. So
P Ryan's is
anyway,
like 40 or something. I don't know. It was bad. It was not good.
yeah. So anyway, for me, Bengals number 2 here. Let me go with some super chats we have here. Professor Chaos says, "Would it be true to say the Browns have the number 1, not just in the AFC North, but of all football?"
Facts.
I,
I don't
I,
think that's far fetched at all. I mean, when you got
Wouldn't be a
Kareem
crazy
Hunt
thing.
and Nick Chubb, I mean, Kareem
Right.
Hunt could probably start for a lot of teams. Let's just say that.
yeah, I agree. They had a legit 2 starters and Kareem. People forget what Kareem Hunt was with KC. Like I feel like KC's best team. I still to this day believe that KC's best team was when Kareem Hunt was the running back. I know they didn't win the Super Bowl, right? Because that was the year that the whatever it was encroachment or whatever it was the D4 did. But yeah, I think that was the. I mean, because he's super dynamic. Noah Stone here says Lamar Jackson come play running back for Tampa Bay, take over after Tom Brady win Super Bowl. It's super confusing, Noah Stone, when you use TB for both Tampa Bay and Tom Brady. It takes me a minute. I know I'm slow.
He's supposed to be a Ravens fan, but he's taking a shot at his own quarterback. That's
He is
I
a
don't
Tom
know.
Brady fan, most of all.
I'm
You
about to
haven't
say because
seen.
I know when the Tampa Bay Buccaneers get Baker Mayfield this offseason to replace Tom Brady, he ain't gonna be on them Buccaneers no more.
He's
He ain't
just a
gonna be
Tom
cheering for
Brady.
that. Yeah.
I believe Noah Stone. I wonder if you have like a shrine of Tom Brady in your house. And if
He
you
like
do,
Helga
Oh,
from
for
Hey
sure.
Arnold when it comes to Tom Brady. He got that thing in his, he got a watermelon version of Tom Brady in his closet that he prayed to every night. I bet that man tuck himself in his Tom Brady jammies. He got Tom Brady posters all over the wall, and he got Tom Brady bedspread. Like we all know how Nova Stone get down. It is with Tom
TB12,
Brady.
does he have Smirch? I don't know.
I
Tom
bet
Brady?
that man out there drinking goat milk just to be more like the goat. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know what Tom Brady be out there like spitting in avocado shakes and selling it. Like I want to know, did Nova Stone buy them plain ass khakis that Tom Brady trying to sell people with these fake golf videos he put on the internet? Did you spend your money on that? Because if you did, I got to talk to you.
Rex Fortune here says Jerome Ford is gonna end up being a great running back with saving land a helicopter at your high school to recruit you. Then eventually you end up helping a P5. What is a P5?
Power 5.
Power 5. Gotcha. Power 5 make the playoffs. You have potential.
Well, group of 5 is what he should have put in there. No, Jerome Ford's legit. I think he was the best player on that Cincinnati offense. If you watch that game versus Houston, he's the reason that Cincinnati did not fumble their opportunity to get to the playoffs because he was just tremendous against a ranked Houston team. Yeah, Jerome Ford, the real deal, man. And he's the 5th running back on the Browns roster right now.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that roster soon. Nova Stone here says Lamar Jackson don't want to play for Ravens.
Greg Roman?
Greg Roman wants him to be a running back. Okay. And Ja Uzumaki, shout out to you, man. Thank you for the donation. I have both Mike Davis and Patterson on fantasy in 2021. Davis was non-existent.
Oh yeah, Cordero. No, I'm talking about Mike Davis when he was like on the Panthers. Panthers Mike Davis was like crazy.
Yeah, Cordero last year was stupid. Right?
That's why the Falcons signed Mike Davis, because they thought that they were going to unlock some untapped potential, and then they got hit with Cordero Patterson like coming out of nowhere.
Yeah, he
just took that whole job.
Yeah, he was. Anyway, let's go with Tony with the number 1, and then I'll go with Ace.
Fine, Browns, easy Browns. I mean, this is the best running back room in football, not just in the AFC North. Nick Chubb's the best back in the league. Kareem Hunt's right there with him. I've made the point in the past and the wrong point in the past, but I've made the wrong point in the past of saying that Kareem Hunt was a better player than Nick Chubb. Obviously, that's not the case, but here's what I'll say, right, real quick, because I know I'm gonna go too long on this. But I think that Kareem Hunt runs with the kind of aggression that I love. He's a player always on the limit, always looks like he's going 110% on every play, and I love that about him, and it's why I'm drawn to his running style. But what you have to give to Nick Chubb, and why Nick Chubb is a better back, is that Nick Chubb has the same kind of results, where he doesn't have to run with the same kind of fierce aggression. It doesn't look like on every play that Nick Chubb's out there ready to just, run someone's face off. He doesn't have to, because it's just the natural power that he has, the natural power that he generates in his legs. He is just a monster out there. And you look at the numbers. Yes, he has the benefit of playing behind a great offensive line, but he's one of those few players in the league who has more yards after contact than he does before. Right? We talked about Najee played behind a bad offensive line, not necessarily a bad offensive line in Cleveland, and yet Nick Chubb's still able to put up more yards after contact than he did before. He's a fantastic runner. They not only do they have Kareem Hunt, they have Dearness Johnson, who's seen that big games in the past. They have Demetric Felton, who could again be that kind of passing down type back, and then they got the kid from Cincinnati, who it might even be a practice squad stash. I mean, my goodness, the rich get richer there in Cleveland at the running back spot. So that's my rankings. Cleveland 1, Cincinnati 2, Baltimore 3, Steelers 4. Back to you guys.
Okay, I'm gonna go with Ace.
Yeah, a lot of what Tony said was true, especially looking at the numbers earlier. Nick Chubb, he just is in a class of his own right now, especially when you talk about, like he said, numbers, yards after contact. I looked that up as well. Him, Najee, and Mixon are there, but he is above them. Like he just said, not as many carries, still the same production. I mean, there's nothing not to like about Nick Chubb, because I think even if Kareem Hunt wasn't there, he probably still would be, or the Browns would probably still be my number 1 ranking, just based off of how good he has performed. Then you talk about Kareem Hunt. We've already talked about that. Obviously, he's there. And then we found out about the third running back last year when those guys were out. He did his thing. I think LeBron even tweeted him. Like, that's how loaded the Browns are. Like, all of their running backs have that. I even like Felton. I like Felton as well, as far as that. He's probably the 6th running back there, right? But I like what he can do in the passing game as well. And then we talk about the kid from Cincinnati. So obviously, I think Cleveland, they have not only one of the best running backs in the league, arguably, some people have a debate between those two guys at the top, but they also have a room that's stacked as well. And the fact that he's able to do that in that offense with splitting carries with some of those guys is extremely impressive. And that's why I don't see them falling off from the cliff, especially with bringing in Deshaun Watson. Yes, Deshaun Watson runs, but it's nowhere near to the level of what I thought it was before I looked at some of these stats here. He'll probably get about 400 or 500, but that's where he caps out at. Like, Deshaun Watson isn't going to be running for 7, 8, 1,000 yards. So I don't think that he's going to affect their running back room at all. And I think that the Browns are number 1 for me.
before I go with you, Q, I wanted to say we have 393 votes, and we had the Browns at 63, Ravens and Bengals tied at 15, and the Steelers with a respectable 8%. Q, who's your number one?
Oh, it's the Cleveland Browns. Well, if we just look at Nick Chubb's body of work, it's pretty incredible that he's had almost 5,000 rushing yards in 4 years. Never ever been over 300 carries in his life for this team. So that's pretty impressive. Also, one of the things I felt like is slept on is if I asked you who the Browns' second leading rusher was last year, I think a lot of people would say Kareem Hunt, but Kareem Hunt was hurt most of the year, and Dearness Johnson stepped in and had the largest yards per attempt. I think he had the largest yards per attempt of all of the Browns running backs with 5.3. Ended up putting up 534 yards. And if we remember the two games where they leaned on him heavy, the second Cincinnati game and the first Denver game, the only Denver game on Thursday night, Dearness Johnson was a massive part. I mean, the only reason they won those games. He is a tremendous running back. He would start for a lot of teams. I think if he were not on the Browns as the third running back, kind of hitting, and now he's starting to hit that age where he's like not going to be coveted, he would be somebody's starting running back because he has put up starting running back like numbers. I mean, he's never been under 5 yards per carry in his NFL career. Granted, he ain't had that many rushes in 2019, but still in 2020 and in 2021 again he flashed, and I think he was even better this year. Just that kind of downhill runner. So you look at that. Kareem Hunt, who was hurt most of last year, didn't put up great numbers, but we know what he can do when he's utilized in there. And also, like when you look at these 2021 numbers, this is versus a Browns team running the ball, where teams were essentially convinced that you could not do anything to them passing the ball because Baker Mayfield was 27th in QBR that year, turned the ball over a lot, just flat awful offensively. So that all of this production I'm talking about, the Browns having in 2021 on a down year is from a year where nobody had to worry about the quarterback position, which meant loaded boxes, safeties in the box all the time. With Deshaun Watson being there, that's not going to happen. Right? Nobody's rolling their safeties in the box and saying, we'll see if Deshaun Watson beats us, because that's a dumb way to go about it. Right? So I expect this to get better. I think Kareem Hunt's going to have a breakout year this year. And it's going to be interesting. What does Jerome Ford give this Browns team, right? Because he's a 4th round pick, and I don't think you can stash Jerome Ford on your practice squad. Demetric Felton had a couple of good highlights at the beginning of last year. He seems like the odd man out to me, and he's somebody I think won't have a problem finding another NFL gig. So Browns are just loaded like Alabama at running back. Like they just got dudes on top of dudes on top of dudes there that can play. You add that on top of everything else, a run-heavy scheme. And yeah, this is one of the best running back rooms in football, one of the better running back rooms in a while. Let alone in the AFC North. So the Browns easy number one here.
Before I get my number one, Q, I wanted to ask you, you think Johnson is a potential? So I was thinking that Johnson could be, because he had a couple like a breakout games when he had the opportunity. Could he be a guy that you guys trade maybe during the preseason time, where a team might be like, damn, we're light at running back, let's bring this guy. Maybe they have let's say a team like the Chargers, they have one really good running back, but they want to have that second guy. Do you think that he could be a trade chip and then they keep the Felton? And
I don't think so, because the value you would get back for Dearness Johnson wouldn't be better than just having Dearness Johnson.
Okay.
Would you trade Kareem Hunt though? Because we know Kareem Hunt would have some value.
He's a free agent.
But again, the value from running back is so low, right? So if you're talking about Dearness Johnson, maybe a 6. If you're talking about Kareem Hunt, maybe a 4th. I don't think that's worth not having Kareem Hunt on the team. And I think that's the issue with trading running backs in general. I know we talk about it a lot, but they just don't have great trade value. So it's just more worth it to have them on the roster, because also running backs aren't that expensive.
True. Okay. We have a super chat here. Soak this category up, AFC Northers. This is one of maybe 3 categories the Bengals don't have the best player in.
Love that.
That's super chat for Crazy Matt.
Love
yeah, so for me, I mean, there's not a lot that I can add here. I mean, the Browns are just stupid deep. I was thinking like, how did we let the Browns that they had Chubb already get Hunt? And then I remember what happened with Hunt. It's like, okay. And then how they have all these other guys too that they just produce well. Now they have a great offensive line, really good blocking offensive line in the running game. But these guys are just ridiculous. I mean, Nick Chubb is just crazy. I remember I said last year, Q, you can correct me if I'm wrong, that might have been PFS. Somebody had Nick Chubb like ranked 5th or 6th or 7th. I don't know.
Yeah, they do this with Nick Chubb every year. They do this with Nick Chubb every year. Where they're like, oh, Nick Chubb, he's not better than XYZ running back. There's always a new flavor. And then the season starts and they're like, oh man, this Nick Chubb, he still got it. I'm like, he's only 24. Well, he's only 26. Like, yeah, it happens every year with Nick Chubb where people, because he's not like boasted stat guy. He's not the most highlight guy. Well, his highlights are incredible, but he's not going to be on the front page all the time just because of his demeanor. He's the Tim Duncan of running backs.
I was gonna say that.
Like,
yes,
he is. Like, you always forget. Like, remember when Tim Duncan was in the league? Every year we would sleep on Tim Duncan. We talk about the best big men in the league. And all of a sudden the playoffs come around. Damn, Tim Duncan good. He just getting 30 and 10 like every night. It's just what it is.
But you know what Tim Duncan was, and I guess this is what I was gonna say about Nick Chubb is they are great. I mean, great as historically great as Tim Duncan. But Tim Duncan was always a boring player. He was just great, but he was so fundamentally good that he would be unstoppable.
There wasn't a lot of flash to Tim Duncan.
Exactly.
Yeah. Like,
So
he
Hunt
was not
flash.
John Morant out here like pointing guns and dunking on folks. Like, that just wasn't how Tim Duncan got.
I remember when he was in the All-Star game trying to do crossovers and stuff like that to be funny because
he looked awkward. He looked awkward. Right?
He was in a rap video with Tony Parker in a white tee, and I was just like, "What is this?
What is that?
What is going on?"
That's not
Tim Duncan was not good. Look, Tim Duncan got his jersey retired in the arena. He did not get his jersey retired in any club or local establishment in the San Antonio area. That was for Steven Jackson.
Yeah.
never got a lineup either. I could never understand. I'm like, dude, get a lineup, Timmy. Never got a lineup.
But what I was gonna say is that you think about, and this is why
Tim Duncan had no lineup. Like, he thought that was gonna mess up his jumper. Like.
So, but Nick Chubb here, if you think about Derrick Henry, right? Derrick Henry will have at least 1 or 2 plays a year where he's gonna juke somebody or he will stiff arm somebody so bad, right? It will become a meme, right? Ravens are in one of those, and he has a couple others against Buffalo and other teams, right? And then Jonathan Taylor has been stupid great too, right? And Nick Chubb has been so great, right? But we take him, not me, but a couple of people, especially non-AFC North teams, because when Hunt is there, he will have a couple of plays where he flashes. Like, Hunt is great, but he's also, as Q said, like John Moran, like he will dunk on somebody, right?
Nick Chubb had 1,200 yards last year, 8 touchdowns on 5.5 yards a carry, with 228 attempts. And I legitimately felt like watching it, this ain't the same Nick Chubb. Like, that's how good Nick Chubb is.
Yeah.
Like, and he did that, by the way, in 14 games. He missed 3 games last year. So
yeah, he missed some games last year. He's
crazy.
Those numbers are crazy.
And I'm still sitting here like, man, Nick Chubb was kind of like off last year. I think he's gonna bounce back from.
But it's because our mind goes to the flashy players, and Nick Chubb is consistently good, consistently great. But he doesn't have that flash moment, right? He's just great all the time. He's consistently great, and he's not mixing when he gets a first down, he'll be there. He will make you feel like, hey, I got a first down, right? And you have a couple of the other players. Like JK does the same thing. Gus Edwards, like, not that he's anywhere near what Chubb is, but Gus Edwards is a very quiet guy. Chubb is the same way, right? And I think that's why people, again, not in the AFC North, but just forget about how great it is. And then you go from this guy that, let's say, top, I think he might be the number 1, but at worst, let's call it top 3. And then you go with a guy as Kareem Hunt that if he was a starter as a bell cow, as when he was with KC, we were talking about Kareem Hunt being a top 5 when he was
He
in
was a
KC,
rushing
right?
champ.
Yeah, we were talking about him being a top 5 because he was not only great as a runner, he was great in the passing game, right? And then after
He's
those,
still great in the passing game too.
yeah,
Yeah,
he
he's
still is.
good.
And then after that, we go with 3 guys. So you had the rookie, right? And he was good in college, right? But then you have the other 2 that when their number were called last year, they were legit good. They were still legit good. Not as great as the top 2, but really, really good. Who has a deeper room than this team in the whole league? Right? You have 2 guys that can start, legit starters, top 10 running backs. And then you have another guy that can be a starter in other teams, maybe not teams that have a top running back, but still a good starter. And Felton, that could be RB2 and a bunch of other teams. He's 4th, and they're rookie. That was a good player in college, right? So it was hard. Like I said, for me, the easiest position to rank for the running back was Cleveland and then the Steelers. Go ahead, Q.
I got the only running back room in football history that has been as deep as the Cleveland Browns is when Alabama once had a running back room of get this, Derrick Henry, Alvin Kamara, T.J. Yeldon, and Kenyon Drake.
Wait, Kamara was in Alabama?
Yeah, that's why Kamara went to Tennessee, because he had Derrick Henry and Kenyon Drake and T.J. Yeldon in front of him.
Damn.
The only I get probably like, so if we had to think about the NFL in terms of rooms, because I had to look this up because I'm like, all right, who is actually like second to Nick Chubb and the Browns and all of those guys over there? Is it might actually be AJ Dillon and Aaron Jones. But then there's also Zeke, and a lot of people slept on Tony Pollard. Tony Pollard was pretty good last year.
Zeke ain't Zeke no more.
Yeah.
But Zeke isn't Zeke anymore. So I might have to give it to Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon as
no
that second.
To AJ Dillon and Aaron Jones.
They're not even close.
No, it's not close. But are they second, or who would you put like second just in terms of the NFL?
I think when healthy, not trying to be biased, but I think JK and Gus.
JK?
I think JK and Gus if healthy. I think if healthy.
got a trio, so it might actually be the Ravens.
If you factor in Lamar, I think the Ravens are the only team that really has anything.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That can touch
for sure.
Oh, yeah. But yeah, factor in Lamar, definitely.
When Lamar is factored in and those 2 are healthy, they're on the similar level. Like that, they're on the even playing field with the Browns.
It reminds me of Vic when he had TJ Duckett and Warwick Dunn.
Oof.
Yeah.
Like that was like that run game was just insane.
Yeah.
We need to do an episode one day of college football position rooms that were just insane. Because there are a lot of them that when you look at, you're like, what? Because Alabama got a few of them where you're like, they had.
Yeah, they did have some crazy. Yeah. Like, if you take into account everybody that was there, they have some. Miami has some crazy stuff too.
To lose Alvin Kamara in the shuffle.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Well, they
won a national championship. They missed him none.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah, and think about Georgia right now that JJ. That D-line room. And LSU were the receiving core the past couple of years, right? When they had Shea. Yeah.
I mean, Ohio State had one where they had 3 of the first 6 wide receivers drafted. Because Jameson Williams was a transfer, Olave and Garrett Wilson. Like some of these colleges, especially nowadays, and that might change now with NIL, and that might be better. But no, Clemson. Remember when Clemson had Martavis Bryant, Sammy Watkins, and DeAndre Hopkins? It was Taj Boyd throwing the ball, but damn, it could have been anybody at that point.
Yeah. Damn. Yeah, man. We might have
LSU had Odell and Jarvis at the same time. You know what I mean? What's his name? Oh, big dude, number 7.
Oh, number 7.
Leonard Fournette. Was he
Leonard Fournette at LSU?
Was he at LSU at that point?
No,
I don't think so. This is before LSU got good. Yeah, but this was they had Odell Jarvis
That
is
was AJ McCarron was the quarterback, I think.
no, it was Zach Mettenberger.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Zach
Zach.
Mettenberger.
Zach
He
Mettenberger.
went to
If
the
people
Titans
looked
or
at Zach
something.
Mettenberger throwing to Odell and Jarvis and were like, man, it might be Zach making them good. Which is to tell you, not everybody good at this evaluation thing, man. Like,
Yeah.
Zach Mettenberger.
One Blue says, "Is that some Buccaneer fan who likes brag about Tom Brady's greatness? Because those other 6 championships belong to New England, not Tampa Bay." Yeah, he's a Tampa Bay. I'm sorry, he's a Tom Brady fan.
he's a Tom Brady fan. Yeah.
Yes, Frank Gore. Frank Gore is
That
he
is
just
true.
retired.
They,
just
that man
today.
was on the 2001 Miami team, and he just retired.
yeah, he was.
That's
with-
why I'm like, if we talking about classes with NFL talent before Alabama, Miami back in the day, like early 2000s, Miami was insane.
Was Frank Gore on that team that had Willis McGahee?
Yes,
And,
Hold on, let me see.
bro.
yeah,
they had like
2001
Kellen
roster is
Winslow,
insane. They had Andre. What was it? Andre Davis? Not Andre
Greg
Davis. Andre.
Olsen. They had some. It was insane. Sean Taylor, like, bro.
Just Clinton Portis was on that team.
Samari Rowe, wasn't Samari Rowe on that team too?
Dog, you know how
Yeah, he
old
was
Frank
there.
Gore is. He played college with Clinton Portis.
Clinton
Clinton
Portis
Portis
used
is
to be
a
that dude.
relic. Ken Dorsey. He was in the doors with Ken Dorsey.
Ken Dorsey is now the offensive coordinator.
Was it Greg Olsen out there playing tight end and Kellen Winslow?
Kellen Winslow backing him up. That's crazy.
Yeah,
Like, it's
Winslow,
crazy,
yeah.
bro. Andre
Crazy.
Johnson, like, bro,
That was the team.
Jeremy
that had
Shockey.
just lost
Jeremy
Ed
Shockey
Reed,
was the
right?
tight end.
was Moss on there too?
Santana Moss.
Santana Moss?
Yeah, he was there.
Bro, it's like everybody they had was like NFL
Yeah,
players.
they lost
Good
to
NFL
Craig
players.
Krenzel. They
Right.
lost to Craig Krenzel in the Ohio State
Maurice
Buckeyes.
Claret.
So they had Ed Reed play with him too.
Yes, bro. They were stacked, bro. They were insane. DJ
Wild.
Williams.
Well,
like,
Andre, what was the Texans wide receiver? He was there forever.
Andre Johnson. Yeah, Andre was
Johnson
on there.
there.
Number 5.
Returning kicks, Sonny. Returning kicks. Like they couldn't do anything with them. You got to return kicks.
Yeah, no, this isn't. Yeah,
So
this is-
another one to look at is what 2013 Florida State was a pretty
that
crazy
one was crazy too. That one was crazy too.
Yeah, with 19 LSU was a wild one. The more we get distance away from that, there are a lot of them teams. You're like, man, how did they lose? Like, I think this 2021 Ohio State team, people would be like, how did they not make the playoffs? How did they lose to Oregon? Like,
Right.
that's crazy.
I was shocked, to be honest, when Nick Saban said the comment that he said the other day, because I was like, Nick, don't you get? And I don't follow college football that deeply on the scouting portion. I basically follow the players as they are gonna be entering the the NFL. Then I'm like, okay, let me see these guys how they're playing.
See what they
I was like, the one few things that I know is, Bama, you're always top recruiting class. What are you talking about here? Did they not wear the number 1?
Jimbo done snuck up on him again. Jimbo was the reason that 2013 FSU team was so loaded. Jimbo has snuck up on him. Did you hear what Jimbo said in response?
Oh,
No,
yeah, Jimbo
he
had one
feared
of them
that,
keeping it real moments where he was like,
What
he
did
called
Jimbo
that
say?
press conference because he felt like this needed to be said. Like,
He's
What did
been
he say?
wanting to say that.
What
he
he said?
been like, you know what, Nick Saban, I ain't never like your ass. Let me go.
Basically, he was like, Nick Saban was a hypocrite. He's attacking 17-year-old kids. Like, he's just mad that he's not the number 1 guy anymore. And then he was just like, look up his record. His resume doesn't stand too tall, or anybody that's worked for him. Look at what they've said about him.
We can't do it justice. You need to watch it. Because
you gotta watch it, bro.
There are like 4 times you go, damn, Jimbo, you gonna chill? And he stops. And he gets going again. And he just stops. And he gets going again. And he stops. And then you go, oh man, I didn't know he was this mad. Like he was pieced.
So A&M has the top recruiting class. Is that what got leaked? Oh,
look, we know A&M be spending money because how the hell did they get Myles Garrett to come to their school? Like, you know what I mean? That didn't make no sense. And it's not like you discovered Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett was Myles Garrett coming out of high school. We seen the pictures. How the hell did you make that happen? I understand how you get Johnny Football, but Myles Garrett, You gonna have to explain that one to me. Unless that brother's family went to Texas A&M, ain't no damn reason that man went to no Texas A&M, but he did.
And we all know how Texas is with football, high school, any level. Like those
All
boosters
that
are gonna
oil money.
open that roll up. Okay.
It's about to be like that in them Florida schools too, because all that Bitcoin money down there in Florida. Oh man, well I don't know. Bitcoin money kind of went down, so we'll see. But all that tech money, it's gonna be a crazy landscape. I can't wait for college football for the first time in a long time because you know what? The goofy is back. And that's what makes college football great is the goofiness, right? The unregulated goofidity, right? It's what Jimmy Haslam had at Tennessee. This is what makes college football great is when somebody's like, I'll spend $300 million, I'll spend $30 million on 2 nose tackles. Like that's just the best thing in the world. And now boosters can do that. Now somebody's going to get scammed, undoubtedly, and that's going to suck. But it's gonna be fun to watch because boy, it's gonna be like a year. Houston's gonna be like the number 2 team in the country because they got all that money that they can't wait to spend.
It's gonna be less predictable. I like it that way. I like them evening up the playing field.
I want to know what Clemson gonna do because I know they ain't got the money to be rolling around like this, right? Like who's like we know Alabama gonna be cool when it comes to the money. Ohio State's gonna be cool when it comes to the money. Florida's gonna be cool when it comes to the money.
Oregon has Nike money.
Oregon got the Nike money, but I don't know how dedicated they are to spending it. We already seen USC's like, we're back.
Yeah, we're back. I'm glad to see USC.
Yeah, USC put together a super team in college. And you got it. How can we be mad? How can we be mad? They put together they put together an all-star team in free agency, pretty much. Caleb Williams. We're gonna bring this 5-star from Pitt. Like, how can I be mad at this? Because you know what? It's the first time I'm gonna stay up till midnight to watch the damn Trojans play in a long time. Like that's
when it was his best, when we had a whole bunch of powerhouses like early 2000s. USC, you had Texas, you had O State, you had Michigan, you had all of these teams that were just good.
Here's the thing: in the 80s, Southern Methodist University could just come out of nowhere and become a powerhouse because you could just slang that money around, and that's what I want to see. You know what I mean? Who's gonna be the small school with the alumni who cares too much with too much money and time to spend on this? That's gonna blow up out of nowhere. I can't wait till BYU blow up for no reason. You know what I mean? Like it's gonna be stuff like that. Like you think Cincinnati? That was organic. What happened in Cincinnati?
Right.
But if Houston do what Cincinnati did, I'm telling you right now, that got PEDs in it because there ain't no way Houston about to come through with the clean. We know how you know why Houston been in these mediocre divisions ever since they let the Big 8 or whatever they used to call it, the Southwestern Conference. It's because everybody know Houston be ready to cheat. They've been ready to cheat. Houston been ready to cheat since they got kicked out the Southwestern Conference. Now you telling them, oh, we could do this. Miami back doing this too. They got gyms out here just paying the whole team on payroll. I can't wait. This is the most interesting college football has been. Keep the transfer portal alive. Keep the NIL in. I ain't hating on none of it.
If Miami and USC are ready to spend, if you're a 5-star and the money being equal, you're like
Miami's ready to spend, and now they can do it legally. Okay?
But that's my point. If you're a kid, you're going to Miami or California.
You could have some money in your pocket, and you could do it in Miami.
Yeah,
I'm going to Miami. I'm going to Miami. Look, if Georgia Tech wasn't such a smart school, they would be in this too, because having money in Atlanta at 18, and Georgia Tech is in Atlanta. Like it's not outskirt, it's in Midtown. Like it's right there. I'm just saying these cities that got money is cities that you would want to, like, nobody want to have $2 million in Tuscaloosa. What you go buy a Ford F-150 3 times? Like, yeah, what you only have so much fun in Tuscaloosa. But in Houston, you got $100,000 in your pocket in Houston. You can spend that and have the moments of your life, dog. Life. I'm just saying, it's going to be some stories out of this generation of college football athletes that we have been sorely missing. Imagine Deion Sanders in this climate. Man, I'm telling you. it would be
pulling up
going
with a
in
Maybach
Tallahassee.
or something.
It would be going. Okay, Deion Sanders would be in the transfer portal every year to get a re-up or whatever deal he signed last year. I can't wait to see how this goes for the NCAA, because it could have been avoided if you wanted to pay the school, if you made the schools pay the players. That could be regulated. But now we in this unregulated world. Oh, it's about to be the Wild West out
West,
here.
baby.
Yep.
West. Noah Stone here says Ravens need to trade LJ for a better.
Okay, Nova Stone is no longer a Ravens fan. Okay, let's just take that away. He is not a Ravens fan.
He said a
He
real
is
quarterback
not
like Justin Herbert, who's never made playoffs.
He's a Bucks fan. He's a Brady fan.
He's a Brady fan.
All right, man. You better stay with the Bucks when they go to the
next
Baker
year.
Era.
You can't come back to Baltimore. They will not accept you.
Who was the biggest flip? Mischief did some stuff like that.
Quincy knows who it is. We. I jumped into space and he was leading and speaking for the Bengals. I was like, am I in the Twilight Zone right now?
Nah, dog,
like, yeah, we did so much this year. This was our year. I'm like,
here's what y'all getting wrong on my boy, man. It's a variant of him. That ain't the same him that was cheering for the Browns. That's a variant from a different universe. You know what I mean?
He came from another universe for sure.
I checked. He said that he's a Cleveland, not Cleveland, Ohio guy. So anything Ohio goes, right?
That don't be.
We're not doing that.
You don't ever go, oh, I'm an Ohio guy, so I'm rocking with the Bengals. No, this is not like with the Jets and the Giants where they don't ever play each other. And even then, don't nobody do that. No.
The only thing we come together on is Ohio State. That is it.
We don't. The only thing we come together on is hating Pittsburgh. That's it.
Yes.
That's it. That is the one
That's
thing
exactly
is laughing at Pittsburgh. You know what I mean? Like, other than that, it ain't no, I like both teams. I'm doing this.
And the Cavs, right?
We don't. I would be lying if people in Cleveland acted like they cared about what goes on down there. And people in Cincinnati, they can't stand us up there. Like, it ain't the same. That's how I know you've never been to Ohio when people say stuff like that. Because Northern Ohio and Southern Ohio, them two different states. I don't care what the maps say. Them two different countries almost.
Facts.
Yeah, somebody again. I've never been to Cincinnati. I've been to, I guess, no, not even Cleveland. No, I haven't been to Cleveland either. But somebody told me like, well, Cincinnati's more basically Kentucky than it's Ohio. Is that how?
Nah, it's not Kentucky. Like part of Northern Kentucky is considered Cincinnati or whatever. Like we kind of have Newport on the Levee and stuff like that. But nah, it's like if you're talking about Kentucky. Rugged, no, it's not that. Like a lot of people expect it to be that.
Ohio.
A lot of people expect like corn and farming, and it is not that. It is not that at all.
There are levels to Ohio. Like, if again, Ohio is a hard thing to explain to people who ain't been there because there's Cleveland, there's Columbus, there's Cincinnati, there's Mississippi in between all of that. And then there are like Dayton and Youngstown and like little pockets in between there, Lima and all that. But, it's a hard place to explain. And the best way to explain Cincinnati is that's Southwest Ohio. It's not Kentucky. It's a completely different thing than Kentucky in West
Kentucky,
Virginia.
You'll know when you're in Kentucky, bro.
Yeah, you'll know because Kentucky don't have guardrails. Like Kentucky, like those states don't have guardrails on their mountains. Like Ohio at least has that, but it's different. It's Southwest Ohio is different than Northeast Ohio, and they could not be culturally further. It's like comparing Pittsburgh to Philly. You know how they are in the same state, but they don't really ever feel like they're in the same state because they're not.
You almost forget that they're in the same. I even forget that they're in the same state.
You know what I mean? Like that's how Ohio is. It's culturally way different from Cleveland and
I went to Toledo once in Ohio, right? And all I remember was I looked through each side and all I can see was corn.
Yeah, that's.
And I was like, I've never seen this much corn in my life. Like I couldn't see anything past corn going to Toledo.
Yeah, and that's how those cities are. You drive through Mississippi and then you end up in Toledo for like 10 minutes and then you in Mississippi again.
Okay. Well, guys, this has been a fun one. Next week we might do, I don't know. It's either O-line, receivers, or tight ends, right? Those are the three left on the offense.
You guys know I'm not putting the Ravens in the bottom two for tight end. We know that, right? We know that my
Well,
guy
they
that's
in
in
the
the
neighborhood.
neighborhood. He done
Wait, hey,
he done
we need to
served
talk
Travis
about-
Kelce that
we-
eviction
hey,
notice.
We need to talk about whether David Njoku's in the neighborhood. I'm
David
just
Njoku.
saying.
I like the potential.
His
He
paycheck,
does have
his
potential.
paycheck says he is.
His paycheck says he has a almost like a penthouse there.
Yeah, I mean,
And he's the highest
his
now.
paycheck
Right?
says the U-Haul is coming.
Yeah.
Wait till you see what I do with Watson. That's what it says.
They
Yeah.
must know something. I know y'all be on them analytics. They must know something. They know something.
They know something. They know who played quarterback last year. That's what they know. Okay.
Anyway, guys, make sure you again subscribe, hit that bell because it's gonna be next week. What day? That's when you hit the bell. And also follow us on Twitter. We also announce it on Twitter every time what day we're gonna be in. So make sure you follow us on Twitter. This has been a fun one, guys. We will see you next time. Peace out.